What's going on, everybody? Ace Poker back for another video. We're back to the home game scene today, but wow, I have some crazy announcements. In just a week from now, I'll be going to Vegas to play the WPT Poker Tour. I'm playing in 3 tournaments out there. It's my first live poker tournament ever. I'm playing in a $1,600 event, so just wow. If you told me this months ago, I wouldn't even believe it. And 2, it's also my first time in Vegas. I am so pumped. I'm just so happy. Thank you guys for all the support, because if you guys didn't watch my videos, like my content, follow me on all my socials, I would not be able to do this. I am just so pumped, and I was thinking about it the other day. When I first started this, I had no idea. It wasn't for the money, it wasn't for the fame, it wasn't for any of this. It was just for fun, and it will always be for fun. And I think you guys can see that, and I think that's why you guys like my content and support me. It's always straight from the heart. I'm always gonna be real. 444, you see it on my hoodie. Got on my special hoodie today, so it's gonna bring some luck. Let's get right into some cards and let's go. Alright, we get into things right away as we win the $10 free straddle. So we have it on in this hand, we add $10 to it. So we're basically in the $20 straddle, and we look down at pocket aces, the perfect development. Now all we need is someone to raise, limp in, we could re-raise, and every single player folds. Are you kidding me? That never happens at this game, and it happens when I have aces. Alright, rough start, but we'll have to move on to the next hand. And it's alright, because we have a little bit of redemption with 1 pip down with pocket kings. I just want to apologize in advance for the camera. There's a setting where you can turn off where the camera will keep autofocusing, and I didn't do that prior to this session. So it's going to be a lot of autofocusing, but just try to bear with me here, and on the next vlog it'll be fixed. We have a perfect setup here. There's a $10 straddle to my left, so I'm in the cutoff. 2 people called it $10, so I decided to bump it up to $40. And both limpers decide to call the $40. This table is very limp heavy, and then they'll definitely also call a raise, so it's a pretty interesting dynamic. But we're going 3 ways to a board that is definitely much better for their ranges than for mine. But when they check it over to me, I decide to put out a c-bet here as also sort of a feeler to see what these players have. If I'm going to get raised, it's going to be disgusting. But I make it $40, and only one of the 2 limpers call, the other one folds. So we're going heads up now to a turn. The turn looks a little scary, but when he checks it over for a second time, here's my thought process here. Obviously, there's a diamond flush draw on the flop. There's still a lot of straight draws, a lot of pair plus straight draws. So I'm not really interested in checking it back and giving him a free card to potentially hit 2 pair, a straight, a flush, and there's really not many great rivers to see. So my thought process was to go on the huge side here, bet very big here, and if he calls, we can shut down on a lot of rivers, because I assume no matter what the river is, even if he hits a draw, he's going to check it over to me if I show a lot of strength by raising pre-flop, betting flop, and betting turn. So I don't really want to check and then have him either, like I said, hit his draw or miss his draw and then bet on the river and then either get raised or him just snap fold. I think there's tons of hands to get a lot of value from. So I decided to go on the bigger side and bet $125. I think you can even bet $150, $175, $200. But after just a little bit of thought, my opponent makes the call, which is what I was expecting. And like I said, one of those disgusting rivers. Literally, all the straights get there, all the flushes get there. So when he checks, I'm just going to take this one to showdown. I check, show the kings, and we're good. He never shows his hand, so we never get a look at what he has. But I think I played it pretty good. I just think I could bet a bit more on the turn. I don't really think that there's much I can get value from on the river. I was debating shoving and putting my opponent all in for his last $250, $300. But like I said, it's just a scary board, and when you size up on the turn, I think it's alright. I know I always say you can't be scared and you can't just check back a lot of hands. You have to go for some value. So maybe just a thin value bet on the river to $75, but that does open the door for a bluff. If my opponent had missed diamonds, he may just check jam the river, and then that would be a pretty gross spot for me to call. I don't know if I would be able to call, so I decided to just check it back, and let me know what you guys think down below. Right on cue with me telling you that people normally limp at this game and then do some crazy things. There's a $10 straddle on, and 4 players call the straddle, and now it's on me with ace-jack suited, a hand that plays beautifully post-flop and I can go to battle with, or I can steal it with a lot of card removal here with the ace. I raise it up to $50. I am punishing the limpers today. Nobody's getting through with a limp, and only one of these players decides to call. So like I said, this player limps for $10 and then calls a raise to 5x that. Little weird, definitely not recommended, but it's alright. We're going heads up to a flop here, in which we flop pretty good. We flop a flush draw, but we are out of position here, so I decide to check it over to him, and right on cue, he decides to bet out for pretty big. He decides to bet, I think, $80 or $90. I never got the actual count. I didn't really want to count because I knew what I was doing. I was checking to set up a check raise, and whether the bet was 70, 80, 90, 100, it didn't matter. I was going to raise pretty big here, so I decided to raise it up to $200. My opponent thinks for not too long and decides to let it go. So you guys know I'm very aggressive with flush draws sometimes, but it makes it hard to play against me because sometimes I have that overpair, sometimes I have that set, and you don't know if I've got that flush draw instead. So happy to take this one down with a little bit of aggression, and let's go. We're on a good start to start the day. The video is flowing perfectly today as this hand sets up exactly what I was saying, where you never know if I have a flush draw, if I have a set, if I have an overpair, and this player is one that I've played against a lot. He owns this game. We battle back and forth all the time, me and my boy Rico. So we look down at pocket jacks. Under the Gun opens it up to $15. One player calls, and I decide to 3-bet this one up to $60, and I'm not going to lie, I didn't see that Under the Gun opened it. I thought the other player opened it, or else I would have 3-bet it pretty big to $80 or $90. But it might have worked out for me here. The small blind now cold calls the $60, which is a little concerning, but like I said, my boy Rico, I've played with him a lot. I know he does a lot of different things, so I'm not too worried about the cold call. And then weirdly, the initial raiser folds, but the other player who called the 15 also calls the 60. So we're going 3 ways to a really good board. As these players called and the flop was coming out, I was just saying no ace, king, or queen, no ace, king, or queen. And that's what we got. We got a great board. They both check it over to me. There's 2 clubs out there. So like I would do if I had ace, king of clubs, king, queen of clubs, any of those huge hands, I go on the bigger side here and I bet $110. And my boy Rico is in there right away as he snap calls the $110. So like I said, nothing too worried about yet. But the other player folds and it's just me and him and we're headed to a turn. Again, I'm saying no ace, king, or queen, but now I'm saying no ace, no king, no queen, and no club. I know it's a lot to ask for, but the dealer puts out the picture perfect turn card. Now it's less likely that my opponent will have a set of 3s. He obviously still could have top set, middle set, which is now a full house, and will be screwed.
I have a bluff catcher. I have a bluff catcher. I have a bluff catcher. I can beat ace king like a motherfucker. I'll smoke the shit out of ace king right now. This doesn't make the video, right? I might probably just make the video.
But I think his most likely holding is a club draw or 2 overs or a low to medium pocket pair himself. He could have pocket 10s. There's only 2 combinations out there, like I said, that are beating us. He checks it over to me. And now, what would I do if I had a massive bluff? Ace, king of clubs, king, queen of clubs, or if I was just going crazy with a huge bluff, ace, king offsuit, king, queen offsuit. I don't know. There's a lot of hands that I would try to push people off of. My boy Rico knows I do this with flush draws. He's seen me do it with flush draws. He's seen me do it to him and other players. So I decided to go all in. I covered him at this point. He had about $450 or $500 left. So this is a massive, massive bet. It is an over bet.
I'm all in.
He's all in too. Well, he got you covered.
All right, cool.
Good luck.
Oh,
You got
I don't
10s?
have a bluff catcher.
No, he has a 9. He
that's
has
not
like
a bluff.
ace 9.
Bluff catcher.
You might can give him on. Yeah, he's got it covered.
Yeah, you're right.
That made the fucking vlog for real.
He thought about it for a super long time and then decided to put his foot down and say, you know what, F it, I call. I respect him. I respect that. It takes definitely a lot of mental strength to do that. He's a great player. Like I said, he knows how I play. And like I said, I would do that with so many different hands. So it's definitely a really tough call or a really tough fold. But, you know, we show him the jacks right away. Not going to slow roll him. And he's like, oh, man. Definitely is defeating when you stick in that hero call and then your opponent just shows you basically the nuts. But I respect him. You know, he was like, at least the money's going to a good place. You know, he's a good guy, great owner of the game. And let's go. We're on the right track and we have some more funny and interesting hands coming up. We battle Rico more than one time. Let's get into it. Alright, so things have been going pretty well so far, and this time the $10 straddle is on. We look down at pocket 10s. 4 players call the $10, and I raise this one up to $50. I think I honestly should make this $60 or $70, but 3 of the limpers decide to make the call. So like I've said, there is a frequent thing going on here where people just limp the $10 and then call a massive raise. It's very interesting, but we're going 4 ways to a flop here, which comes out 2, 4, 4 with 2 hearts out there. All in all, a really, really, really good board here. So they all decide to check it over to me, and I decided to see bet here for $75. I like the sizing. It's not too big, it's not too small, it's kind of right in the middle. It definitely would allow my opponents to continue with a lot of weaker hands and potentially even call me with king queen, ace queen, ace jack. Any of those hands that somebody wants to try to draw on. Definitely gives a great price for hearts. And it folds all the way around back to the player to my right, who decides to go all in for $400. Oh my goodness, this is disgusting. Right away, I am sort of ruling out a 4, although this is the player who I think is most likely to have a 4, because after I raised to $50 and there are 2 callers in front of him, he's getting a great price to stick in $40 more with literally any 2 cards. He could have 4-8 suited and he's getting a good price to call. But what are some of the other hands he's going to have here? I mean, honestly, pocket 2s are likely. I mean, maybe pocket 4s for quads, 4-5 suited, 3-4 suited. But if he has a 4 here, is he just going to go all in? Why wouldn't he just flat call and then we'll pretty easily get it all in on the turn? To me, it seems like he's got a really big combo draw, like 6-7 of hearts, 5-6 of hearts, 3-5 of hearts, anything of that nature. Having the 10 of hearts is not a good card here because that reduces the chances that he'll have jack 10 of hearts, 9-10 of hearts, queen 10 of hearts, king 10 of hearts, ace 10 of hearts. So it makes it less likely, but just slightly less likely, that he's going to be doing this with a heart flush draw, but it does increase the chance that he'll have a 4 here. He also could have pocket 5s, pocket 6s, pocket 7s, pocket 8s, pocket 9s, obviously probably not pocket 10s, but I think all of those hands would make relative sense because they do need a lot of protection. Say I had ace king, king queen, or if I had the heart flush draw myself. So I think it over for a long time, and I think curiosity just gets the best of me as I stick it in. I'm all in.
All in as well. And a fold. Good luck, gentlemen.
You have a 4.
You want to do it for good?
Yeah, you want to go twice?
Action.
1 time or 3?
Yeah, 1.
1?
Yeah.
One time. Good luck.
Yeah, I got 4.
He said he had bullshit blue flop.
Oh, you got 4-5.
And the 4-5.
And the 4-5, right?
Colt 4-5.
I ask him right away if he has the 4, and he says, yeah. I just run it one time, maybe we can get lucky and bank the 10, and we can't. So, all the money that we made in the last hand, we give it right back, and I think that I can just let this one go, and especially these games where I have an edge, I think I can just pick my spots and wait for better spots. I would have only invested $120 into this hand, and I could have pretty safely folded without risking another $400. If he has the heart draw, let him have it, but I think more often than not, he's going to show up with a strong hand here. I couldn't just get over that in the moment. It just sort of clouded my judgment, and making a big hero call and holding and being up a lot of money was definitely lingering in my mind, and I'm curious to hear what you guys think of the hand down below. It's very frustrating because, like I said, I didn't think that jamming would mean a 4, but it did, and you know, I show you guys the wins and the losses, and this one is going to be a fat L, and we're on to the next. Trying to get back on track, we look down at pocket 8s. There's an open to $40, and I decided to 3-bet this one from the button to $110. And after some thought, my opponent makes the call. We're headed just me and him to a board that is decent, could be better, could be worse. 10-9-2. My opponent checks, and I decide to c-bet here for $90, sort of on the larger side to see where my opponent is at. I don't want to go super small and just let him call with, you know, king, queen, and just some speculative hands and not really know where I'm at. But after some thought, my opponent folds. We let out a sigh of relief. And that's what c-betting on basically every board with all my hands allows me to do. Is you guys don't know in this spot if I have aces, if I have kings, if I have queens, or if I have an underpair to the board. So we take this one down with a little bit of brute force, and we're on to the next hand. Alright, time for an interesting decision from one of my opponents. We looked down at Ace King offsuit in the $10 straddle, and you guys guessed it, 3 players called the $10. Gets back to me, the price of poker is going up. I raise it to $50, and only the player to my direct left in the small blind makes the call, so just me and him are headed to a board in which, surprise, we whiff with Ace King. We never normally hit an ace or a king. It's jack high, and now my opponent just leads out for $100. Definitely very interesting. There's not even a flush draw out there, so I'm just scratching my head like, what the heck? My opponent has about $350 to $400 left behind, so we definitely could try to bluff jam here because this is definitely a very underbluffed spot, but is it even really worth it? My opponent has been very loose all day. I think he would even call off with like Jack 10, which would be pretty crazy. I don't even want to put myself in that position, so I just let it go. And I'm curious, when you guys face donk leads like this with Ace King, when you just whiff the board, what do you do? Because I don't know what to do. And we're on to the next. Alright, we pick up with this spot a little bit late as we are in the big blind, and obviously we check our option with 10-5 suited. We flop top pair, it checks around, and then we turn 2 pair, so we lead out for $15 and get immediately raised from the player to my left to $55. Alright, you know how the old saying goes, don't go broke in a limped pot, but like I've said, it's my boy Rico. Maybe he's coming for some revenge. He knows I'm not going to have any strong hands on this board, although I'm in the big blind. But there's nothing else to do here besides just make the call and evaluate a river. If the flush comes in, if my 2 pair gets counterfeit, something of that nature, a one-liner to a straight, I could get away from this, but the river comes as clean as it possibly could get. We still have probably the best hand. We have a really good hand here, but I'm going to check it over to him, and he thinks for a really, really, really long time and then fires out $175. This is gross. I even let out an audible like, do you have the straight here? Or I just feel like you have the straight here.
175.
I feel like you got straight.
It was a limped pot, so I know he could have any 2 cards. I also know he is extremely capable of just bluffing a missed flush draw here. Like I said, maybe he's trying to get some revenge on me. Curiosity gets the best of me once again. There's just no way I could ever fold here. I put it in, and of course, he has the straight.
Yeah. Calls.
No, he made 85.
Peanuts.
I know you got a big hand. Let me get paid for this shit.
175.
Nice. Did I make the block?
Yeah, he did.
Yes. Hey, it's me.
As I am frustrated and trying not to get all pissed off, he says some funny things to the camera to make me laugh, and like I said, he's my guy. He's a good owner. He's a great guy, so, you know, nothing to do here besides just laugh it off. I still have the upper hand on him in this video, so he can't get too excited, but we're on to the next hand. For the next hand, we look down at our old friend Ace King. Yeah, my favorite. I opened it up to $25, and the loose player to my left went all in for about $65. And 2 players call the $65. I'm not sure if they understand that this actually reopens the action and I can come back over the top. And just a little pointer, if I have the opportunity to do that and push people out of the pot, blow a pot, guess what? I'm going to do that. Literally the only way I wouldn't do that here is if I had like Jack 10 suited or pocket 6s or pocket 7s, but literally every other hand, pocket 8s, pocket 9s, pocket 10s, all the way up, ace king suited, ace queen suited, king queen suited. I am repotting this, so it's actually extremely dumb to call the $65. This is the easiest steal of my life. I rejam, and now it's just me and my opponent off to the races for a pretty big pot here. It's now about a $240 pot. Because obviously both players fold, I had a large amount of money in my stack, and he shows ace 6 suited. All right, let's go. Now we just need to win, and surprise, we don't hit an ace, we don't hit a king, but ace king high is good on both boards, and we scoop all of that dead money in. Like I said, the people here play a little bit crazy. I'm happy to take advantage of that, and let's go. We get some money back, and we're on to the next hand. For For the last hand of the night, we look down at 6-7 suited. We call a $25 raise, and flop probably just about as good as we could have asked for without actually flopping a straight or a flush. We have a gutter, a flush draw. Let's get after it. We check. The initial raiser bets out for $40. The other player calls $40, and now I re-raise to $110. I think I could even go bigger, but maybe a little bit of a smaller size looks even stronger. The initial raiser folds, and that's who I was most worried about. The other players should seemingly fold here, as what strong hands is he going to have? But he actually jams over the top, but don't be alarmed, it's not that big. It's only another, I think, $40 or $50 to me. So obviously I'm in there, and I'm pretty surprised to see that he has king queen. Definitely an interesting choice here. If I flopped two pair of some sorts or a set, he's drawing dead. But nonetheless, I have plenty of equity. He says let's run it twice, and we brick, and I mean absolutely brick, both of these boards. Pretty disgusting, and that's going to wrap up my time here today. After a hot start, things seemingly sizzled down, and let's head to the outro. Alright, back in the room, and wow, what a crazy session. We jumped out to an early hot start, going up $1,000, and then you see we had a bunch of coolers, had a cool all in, had a bunch of good hands, wound up profiting $500 on the day. It's better than a loss, just super frustrated because I played an extra like 3 hours only to lose $500. I just should have left early when I was up $1,000, but it's hard, I was having a good time. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the session, and stay tuned for the Vegas content coming soon.